Hello, I am Chris Kruger, and I am going to tell you all about my experiences with the Razer Nabu over about the last 2 weeks. I was lucky enough to get into the first wave of the release, the first 5,000. They were selling it for $79.99 to 5,000 people. You just had to race to the site, be the one to get through all the checkout process and everything like that to get yourself a Razer Nabu. I was really excited for the Razer Nabu. A little bit of background. I am a fan of Razer. I don't have a lot of things, but I have some. I have everything I need, I think. I have a headset that I use to play games and stream. I have a very nice keyboard, and I have the Death Adder mouse. So, pretty set with the things I need in the future. There may be a couple more things I'll have to pick up. I don't have a really great mouse pad, and I may even consider the Siren in the future, but this video is about the Razer Nabu. This little device that everyone is kind of clamoring to get right now, and I've had about 2 weeks to play with. To sum it up pretty quickly, I'm a little bit disappointed in it. I feel like there's a ton of potential. There's a lot of things that could be done with the Razer Nabu, and there's a lot of things that it already tries to do but doesn't necessarily do well. If I had to put it into a very short description, I'd say that the Razer Nabu is half fitness band and half smart band or smartwatch, but not fully either. Trying to think of a good place to start. Let's go with the fitness band. Reason being is the only app currently available for the Nabu is the fitness app. At least, that is, if you go into the Nabu utility app and you go to the marketplace, Nabu Fitness is in fact the only app you have access to. Now, you would think the launch app, as it were, would be impressive, bug-free, perfect, or at least close to it. It's not, for a couple of reasons. The Nabu itself is inaccurate. Steps seem to work fine. Today, you hit the button, and let's go with the simple. I'm skipping ahead a little bit. The simple ideas behind the Nabu. What is it? What does it do? What is it for? How does it work? The Nabu is this band, and like I said, it's a bit of a smart band. It's about a bit of a fitness band. There are a few settings that you have that you can set for the Nabu. You can set what displays on the screen when you hit the button. Time, steps, distance, calories burned, and time active. Those are the 5 things you can have display by hitting the button. You can also set whether or not you want the screen to display upon hitting the button, or when you gesture with your wrist to display the screen to yourself. I turned off the gesture because when I talk, sometimes I move my hands around and I gesticulate, and if I'm constantly doing this and creating a blur with my hands, I'm going to kill the battery because I'm constantly activating it. The battery is really good. Just go with that. The battery life is pretty good. It'll last me a few days. I've only had it die on me once. I've charged it 3 times, I think, in the past 2 weeks. Otherwise, I've been wearing it every day, and it only died once. I think it's probably about 20% battery now, I think. Speaking of battery, the first time I charged it up, the battery indicator was wrong. Told me it was fully charged, and as soon as I opened up the app, it told me it was at 68%. It's a pretty big difference. It's about a third of the charge was not there according to the app, so I don't know which one was telling the truth, whether the app was wrong or whether the Nabu itself was wrong in indicating if it was charged, but it was wrong, and it was updated. We did have to update the firmware pretty soon after getting it to make sure some of the issues were fixed. There was a learning curve on making alerts display properly, you can have alerts from your phone, generally push notifications display on the Nabu. It'll buzz a little bit, and depending on what setting you have set, you can either hit the button to view it, or you can gesture to view your screen. With that, when a notification comes through, you have the choice of setting a gesture to shake the Nabu to cancel that notification, or you can hit the button to cycle through and cancel the notifications. Obviously, if you have gesture to show, it makes sense that you could either gesture to get rid of the notification or hit the button. If you have hitting the button to show the thing, it doesn't make sense to hit the button and then shake your hand to make it go away. You're already hitting the button. You might as well be hitting the button. What I was disappointed about in that respect was that those are your only options for notifications. There is no way to set it so that the notification just shows. This is an option that makes sense to me. I don't want to have to gesture to show the screen because I feel like I'm going to constantly be activating it when I gesture and talk, and it's move around on an everyday basis. That gesture is going to happen. It's going to activate. But I also don't want to have to hit the button all the time to show me a notification. I feel like there should be a setting where if I get a text message or a call and the notification comes through, it should use the delay, which you can set how long your screen is active before it goes dark again. It should automatically display. I can turn my wrist and look at it, and I can decide, based on the options, whether I want to shake to dismiss or whether I want to push the button to dismiss. But that's more feedback than a bug or major issue. I just felt like that kind of option should be fairly obvious, at least to a person like me. The use I got out of it, I ended up disabling the gesturing completely so that I could just push the button. The notifications are nice when they work. Nabu gives a nice buzz. It vibrates. And you can set how strong the vibration is in the app. There are a lot of options in the app, although I've probably described about half of them already. The vibration is nice. It allows me to not have to take my phone out of my pocket if I don't immediately want to answer the call or text message, and it gives me a brief description of the message. So, for example, this is just showing the time. You have the capability to test your Nabu by sending it a test notification. So, let's see. Let me find that ability. And of course, right now, it's decided it's not going to work properly. So at some point, I'm telling it to send a notification, and it says, yes, you have sent that notification. I know it's probably not actually showing you that because my webcam is not the highest quality right now. I plan on getting a new one. But it has told me to send one, and the Nabu is not showing one. And I've had this issue a couple of times. Either I move out of range with the Nabu, or the time it died on me when I charged it and tried to pair it again, manually paired it, made the phone forget it, and then pair it again. Tried a few different things, checked all of my notification options. The Nabu wouldn't pick up any notifications for about 8 hours. I'm not entirely sure why. It's another bug in the system. Apparently there's another firmware update. It fixes the sleep mode bug, it improves the battery level calculation, and it fixes calendar event notifications. Those are nice things. So the battery thing that I just complained about might be fixed. Sleep mode I'll get to in a few minutes. And fixed calendar event notifications, I'm not entirely sure what was wrong with them, except that a lot of times, depending on the description for your notification, it's very difficult to tell what you are actually being notified about. Generally, if it's a calendar invite, calendar event, something like that, it displays a little bell icon and a short description. If the title is not entirely descriptive, it doesn't always come out very well. The time usually shows on the next page of the notification because it will scroll and you can set the scrolling speed. So I'll go ahead and download the firmware. Maybe that'll help it to have better notifications again. It told me to plug it into USB, but I'm stubborn and I did not. So we'll see what happens with that. Maybe I'll plug it in now as I'm talking. So it does come with this somewhat short but not terribly short cable to plug in and charge. And the way it works, something I didn't describe, I described in my unboxing video. The update was unsuccessful. That's a shame. I'll have to try it again. It has two different sizes of clasps so that you can fit it to a smaller or larger wrist. Very slightly larger or smaller. It goes from about that size to about that size, depending on if you change the clasp. So I had to use the smaller one on my wrist to make it work, but the clasp twists out, and I'm always afraid I'm going to break the little nubs on this piece. But it twists out, and that's where the charging port is. That's why this is not waterproof, it's water resistant. Most of the band is pretty sealed, and it will sustain water pretty well. But where the clasp is, even while you're wearing it, it's not watertight, so it's not going to stay waterproof if you jump into a pool. Should be fine for rain and slight splatters and such. But it says it's at 32% already when I just plugged it in. Now that it's plugged in, let me see if I can make the firmware update again. Set my phone right next to it just in case it's having trouble pairing. And I'll let that go for a second as well. Sleep mode, I just mentioned, is the Razer Nabu is supposed to also track your sleep in addition to your fitness stats. You can manually set sleep mode. It's kind of a nice feature of it is you can hold the button to set or unset certain things. If you hold it for up to 3 seconds, a bar starts to go across the screen, and it shows you that the first thing, if you let go on, is do not disturb mode. It doesn't get any notifications, it doesn't buzz at you or anything, it's just there, still tracking your fitness. The second option on the same screen, once it gets past halfway, up to about 5 seconds, is sleep mode. Sleep mode measures your sleep. You can manually set it just before you go to sleep if you don't have a steady sleep schedule, and you can turn it off in the morning once you get up and slap it back on your wrist. The next option, once it gets to another screen, my update was unsuccessful again. Let's try one more time. This may not go through. I'm not filled with confidence on this one. The next thing is powering off when it gets to the next screen, up to about 7 seconds. And the last thing, holding it for about 7 to 9 seconds, is resetting to factory defaults. When you do that one, you actually have to hit the button immediately after releasing it again to cause the reset, just as a safety precaution to make sure you don't accidentally do that. It does not look like it's going to successfully update for me, so I'm going to go ahead and not do that right now. But it may not work properly for me until it updates, because it's not showing me, any battery indication either. The other option for sleep mode is to give it an estimated time of when you think you sleep. And then it will automatically go into sleep mode between those hours when your activity is low, when you idle. This hasn't worked very well for a lot of people, and they say they've put in a fix for it. Not very detailed information, just that there's a fix. It wouldn't work for me. I toss and turn. I'm a little bit restless when I sleep, but I am sleeping. So if I move too much in my sleep, it will decide that I'm not sleeping, and it will not add that data. So I have to set it manually. I've been setting it manually. The first couple nights, I actually slept with it on my wrist to see how that would go. Set it, went to sleep. It worked out fine, but it's unnecessary. If I'm putting it into sleep mode, it's not measuring really at all anyway. If I'm doing it manually, it's not waiting for me to be active. So I set it on a nightstand or beside my bed. I wasn't going to just wear it all night just because. I'm going to use the app as kind of my talking points guide. There's a details section that asks it to gather data from your Nabu and things like that. You can send a test notification. You can name your Razer Nabu so that when it shows up on your computer or your phone, you know. The update firmware and removing the band. You have some notifications, things you can set. You can manually set Do Not Disturb on the app as well. You can, if you're on iOS, which I am, if you go to notifications, as if this was a setting, it just shows you a screen that says, set which apps you want Nabu to receive notifications from by entering iOS settings, notification center, and selecting the apps. It has a picture of banners being selected and badge app icon and sounds on. It does have show and notification center is off, so I don't know if that's necessary or not for the app to actually work, but that's all you get. That's as much of a how-to as they show you for how to actually make apps work with the Nabu. And let me tell you, it took me some trial and error to actually get some of the apps to work. Twitter still doesn't work half the time. It sent me maybe 2 notifications in the last 2 weeks, and I set it when I got it to tell me when Twitter had notifications. Um, so it's not really what I expected. You have the vibration setting of low, medium, and high. You have scrolling speed, and you have whether or not you want to shake your wrist or press the button to dismiss a red notification. You have some display settings, how bright the screen is, how long until it times out, which wrist you wear on, whether or not you want to gesture to wake it up, which of the 5 screens it shows when it wakes up, what time format it has, and the distance you use, kilometers or miles. Then you have the sleep mode, whether or not you want it to try to track your sleep, and whether or not you want it to, or rather you can turn on sleep mode here, and whether or not you want it to automatically start and stop, and then the approximate times you would want it to set. Social settings, you can tie your Facebook or Twitter to it, and you can turn on or off the high five action. If you meet somebody else who has a Nabu and you have these settings enabled, you can gesture by high-fiving them to actually exchange social information just like that. You'll become friends, followers of each other, all of that fun stuff. And then there is a pulse option here, interacting with friends and other nearby Nabu users. Now, I had most of these settings set when I got the Nabu, and some of them have been unset. I'll get back to that. There's a reset session data if you're using sessions. And then there's fitness data on Nabu, which you can display per day or you can display per session. I've left it on display per day. It doesn't work that great. And then there's a menu where you can set up a new device, check your connected apps, check the marketplace. My connected apps right now are Facebook, Twitter, and Nabu Fitness. There's a help page and an about page. That's the entire utility app. The fitness app itself is just that. It's just tracking the information you have. It's going to try to update the data for me. It probably won't work, but we'll find out. My problem with this is it's supposed to track your steps with pedometer in some form, either using your phone or the motion of the device itself. It tracks your steps. It's also supposed to track the distance that you've walked, I guess, based on that steps and your stride. It does take your height and weight and age into consideration for some of this information. And then calories burned and your sleep data. As I've said, the sleep data, there was also a bug where it would reset at midnight. So if you were doing some sleeping issue, or if you were doing sleeping, the day reset at midnight, so it was resetting your sleeping session. It wasn't recording properly. Wow. Okay, so today, for example, my fitness stats just updated, and I have apparently taken 8,530 steps. I work an 8-hour job in an office, sitting at a desk, doing I'm a QA tester, but I'm currently doing some clickable prototype work. We work on websites and mobile apps. I don't do a lot of walking around all day. I sit at my desk. I went to the store and walked to the bank during lunch, but 8,000 steps is a lot considering I'm usually idle. It says, based on those 8,000 steps, that I've gone 4,421 kilometers, or 4.421. Sorry, that would have been a bit much. 4.421 kilometers. I did have this set at miles at one point, so it might be showing me the number for miles, but the unit for kilometers. It has done that before as well. It does not have any sleep data, despite the fact that I did let it sleep through this morning from yesterday, so that's that bug. But it does show that I have apparently burned 5,957 calories today. That's almost 6,000 calories. That's about 3 times the amount you are supposed to eat in a day. And this is one of my big problems with the Nabu, is that is incredibly inaccurate. I sit around all day, I have not done any exercise yet today, and I've apparently burned 6,000 calories. I have not. There is no possible way I've burned 6,000 calories doing what I did today. and this is not unusual. That is kind of unusual. It's been about 3,500 on other days, and at lowest it was 2,400. That is incredibly inaccurate. There's no way I would want that to actually be a guideline for me if I was trying to lose weight or eat right or anything. That is horrible. Moving beyond that, steps is usually seems fairly accurate, but today seems a little excessive, and the distance being, I assume, based on the steps is a little silly to mark anyway. So the fitness, inaccurate. It's just I have not seen any semblance of accuracy in it whatsoever. In addition to that, which it is apparently updated now, over the past couple weeks until today, it was not showing me my fitness data when I opened the app. It was only showing me, and now it doesn't want to cooperate at all. You can set it to daily and different things by tapping on it. Now it's showing me data for other days, but once again, let's see. On the 27th, 2 days ago, I apparently burned 4,724 calories. Yesterday, it says I burned 8,000 calories on the dot, and today, almost 6,000. If I burned that many calories in 3 days, I would have already lost a couple of pounds, and I would be sick. My body would be going into starvation mode because I have not eaten nearly as many calories to catch up with that. Throughout the last couple of weeks, I had been opening the app to try to record the data, and it was not uploading properly. It was showing me 0 for previous days, but for some reason today, it has decided it is going to show me everything. Oh, never mind. On the 26th, it's only showing 1,300 steps and 909 calories. That's incorrect. On the 24th and the 25th, it's showing zeros across the board, as well as the 23rd, the 22nd, the 21st, the 20th, and the 19th actually has a little bit of data, which is also wrong. So that's my point, is that the Nabu only seems to hold a couple days worth of data, and if you don't open the app every day, it's not recording it properly. I have been opening the app fairly regularly. It's still not recording properly. It's another bug to add to the list. So that's what it's supposed to do and how it's not really been working that well. There's a couple other things I've noticed. Like I mentioned, when the battery died on me, I had a lot of trouble making it pair with the phone again. It was not picking up notifications. I was sending test notifications to myself. I had someone text me. I had someone call me. It was not working. Some point several hours later, it decided to automatically fix itself and it started working again. Also, on 2 occasions so far, I put it in the sleep mode, and when I took it out of sleep mode, it decided to reset all of my settings. So as I said, I turned off the gesture setting so that it wouldn't kill the battery as much, and so it wouldn't just be this bright thing showing up every time I started talking or moving my hands around. That reset twice. Both settings that had to do with gestures, other settings as well, just seemed to go back to default. I have not seen anybody else report this issue. Dinner's fighting with me. But that's very obnoxious, and never should happen, really. I did skip over build quality. So I have been talking somewhat negatively for a while now, but I have to say, when I first opened up the box, when I looked on Razer Insider, and I was watching what other people's reactions were to the Nabu, a lot of people had gotten theirs, and within 2 or 3 days had really wrecked them. Like, nicks in the rubber, as the rubber was peeling off around the screen. There was a lot of issues with them. There's just people were really beating up this little thing. I've been wearing it for 2 weeks, pretty much nonstop, except for sleeping, and I've got to say it has actually held up really well. There's really no big marks on the rubber whatsoever. The screen is fine. The button is fine. The clasp, despite my trepidations about twisting it in and out, seems to be fine. Hasn't broken yet. Holds together pretty well. I've sweat into it. I've splashed water onto it. I've bumped it against things. I work at a computer all the time, and it's hit the edge of the desk. It's fine. It really has held up really well in terms of build quality. My biggest problem in terms of aesthetic and the build quality is on the outside of the rubber here, almost all the way around where the soft rubber is. It has these lines grooved into the rubber, and they're maybe half to quarter of a millimeter deep. They're very thin, very shallow lines. But the problem with that is that this rubber is somewhat of a sticky material. Not sticky in that, I touch it and I feel like it's sticky, but rubber has a texture. It holds on to things, or it can. These lines, anytime there's been any kind of dust, maybe my wrist came across a crumb on the table that was very small, maybe pet dander, maybe anything. If it's small enough to fit between these lines, it gets stuck and it looks really bad. Any kind of little dirt, any kind of little dust, it's a black band, any kind of little thing shows really well on it, which is a bad thing. It really should have just been smooth rubber, something else on there that just, even if it was smooth with shiny parts or something to make it look nice. I don't know. I don't like the lines in the rubber. I feel like it makes it look dirtier than it really, or it makes it look exactly as dirty as it is, which is something you don't necessarily see with other objects. You just assume, wow, that looks clean because it's smooth. Not with this. Um, Otherwise, the clasp was a little weird to get used to. It claims it's a little charged, so I'm going to unplug it now. And I'm going to put this clasp back in. Now with this clasp in, it comes like this. You don't really see it too well, but there's hard plastic on the inside there and all the way around there. At the very bottom, you can see the difference in color there. It has soft rubber. Now, of course, there's electronics all inside of this, but they wanted these areas with the screen and probably the chipset to be rigid so that you couldn't hurt it. Now, when I first propped this up to my wrist, I wasn't sure how was I supposed to get it over my hand? Was I supposed to put it on over my wrist? I decided going over my wrist was probably the quickest way, but it was really disconcerting the first time I opened it up that far to get it on my wrist. That couple inches, that distance really made me feel like I was going to snap this $80, $100 retail band. So it was really frightening, and doing that constantly feels like it has kind of loosened up the band a little bit and given it a little bit of a backward shape, but it doesn't seem to have had any issues with it. Time would tell if I wore this for months on end and was bending it back and forth. Maybe eventually it would crack or split or something, but so far, so good. Build quality is absolutely amazing. I've had no problems with that whatsoever. My only big concern, other than the lines, is the clasp, because it is made out of plastic, and it does just twist in with these little tiny nubs there. Just, I'm so afraid if I twisted it wrong or just not quite the right way that those would snap and it would be no more good. So I'm going to try to sum up now. I've been talking probably for 20 minutes or more. The Nabu it's live smarter. That's their motto. I don't feel like it has done that for me. I feel like there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of really cool things that could be done with the Nabu. The gesture support is nice. The idea of a private screen that I could look at and not have to open up my phone to get reminders, to get messages, to get push notifications, it's fantastic. But the screen is limited. It's very small. The information that you get out of each notification is very little. When I get a text message, it shows me who it's from. That takes up characters. So if somebody sends me more than a "Hey, where are you?" I'm only going to see the first couple words before the rest of it is cut off. So useful, but still not amazing. I feel like it's trying to be the smartwatch in that aspect. It's got the gesture control. It's got the screen that can do all these things that tether to your phone, but it's only doing it halfway. I'm only getting so much real estate on the screen. I'm only getting so much out of it. And I disabled the gesture control because it just wasn't working for me. I know it's been working out pretty well for other people, but it just wasn't for me. I didn't want this distraction going off constantly on my wrist, killing its battery faster. And I still don't think that shaking your hand is a very discreet notion. Um, Hitting the button is far more discreet. I can turn it and dismiss the notifications at my leisure. So yeah, having no apps whatsoever developed, it feels more like it's still a beta device. It is officially released, even if they are selling them in waves through the insider for now until they ship more to retail stores. But I feel like it's just not ready. It's getting there, but there's bugs. The apps that are there, the utility and the fitness app, are buggy. They don't work at their optimal standards. And issues like the settings resetting on me are just, these are beta issues. It really should not be released with these kinds of issues on it. And I know they're actively working to fix them, but I'm not going to wait around when I could have a product that works. I know that's a harsh thing to say, but I expect to buy something at release that works as advertised, and this has yet to do that. Um, in terms of the fitness band side of it, I still feel like it's halfway there. It doesn't have, a lot of new fitness bands have a heartbeat monitor. This does not. It's very inaccurate in terms of calories. I have not burned 6,000 calories today. I did not burn 8,000 calories the other day. That's just not possible given the activities that I've done. It's possible, but not based on what I did. Um, so I was really excited for this. I was really hopeful, but I just don't feel like it's measured up. I've undecided whether I'm going to try to return it, um, gift it, sell it, or hold on to it and see what happens. At this point, like I said, the potential might mean that in the future this could be a really awesome gadget for me. But as of this video, it is not going to be on my wrist every day as it has. I really wanted to give it a fair chance, a good shake, um, but it's just really not meeting my expectations. Hopefully in the future, Razer can step up their game with the wearables. The mouse, the keyboard, the headset, I love them. They're amazing. I have a lot of respect for Razer, so much respect so that if I do decide to get rid of the Razer after tonight, I am going to attempt to return it first because I do not feel like it is a respectful gesture to go and sell it for more than it's worth because of the demand. Um, but I think that about wraps it up. I've been rambling on without much of a plan. I know it's probably gotten moderately boring, but if you wanted an honest opinion about the Razer Nabu from an average person who does testing for a living, I feel like they should have waited. I know demand was really high. They wanted to get out before Christmas, which they only sort of did to about 5,000 people. But they really should have waited. They should have done some more and better beta testing. I know that their beta selection was based off of people who own Razer products. I'm sure they took other things into consideration as well, but I feel like there's a lot of things on this at release that really shouldn't have been, that beta testers should have easily been able to catch if they were using it every day as a beta test for an everyday wearable device like this should have been handled. Um, it's not ready. It's not done. And I was pretty disappointed. I do not recommend buying it yet. I do recommend, if you love Razer and you really want a Nabu and you really want to see it do the things you want it to do, to just wait. Let the waves of people go and fight for 5,000 at a time, but wait for it to hit retail. Wait for all these issues to get ironed out. Wait for them to release the other colors. Right now, that only comes in black and it only comes in this size. Wait for the other sizes. Uh, Really, it doesn't pay right now to be an early adopter. So if you're really set on getting an Abu and you don't want to have a Fitbit and a smartwatch, or a smartwatch that has fitness uh, capabilities, then wait on the Nabu to get better. Or get one if you have the extra money, but don't expect a lot out of it. Um, yeah, I don't think there's too much more to say. It has so much potential, but it just isn't there. They should have taken more time to fix the bugs. They should have taken more time to iron out a few more apps. There's nothing really out there. I think it uh, binds with iOS fitness app, maybe an Android fitness app, but there really isn't. There's supposed to be a lot of developers that they're working, but they aren't done. The apps aren't there, so the usefulness of this is restricted to what they gave you out of the box and on the iTunes and Android store, which is the utility app and the fitness app, and that's just not much. It's neither one are working perfectly. They're not accurate. It's just not great. So, final word. Half a fitness band, half a smart band is not a great band to make. Um, it really only does either halfway. So I would recommend looking into a more expensive device or other devices based on your needs. If you're set on the Nabu, give it some time. I'm sure they'll fix the issues. I just don't have the patience for it, I guess. And for now, I'm done with it. I hope if you've been on the fence about the Nabu, if you've been really excited about the Nabu, that I've given you a little bit of insight about what a normal, regular person who loves gaming and regular products has experienced in their opinion of the Nabu. Feel free to comment, be respectful, ask me questions. I will try to answer anything I know about or anything I may have missed. If you hate my opinion, good. That's your opinion and your right to do so. If you agree with me, please tell me. And if this has affected your decision either way, I'd love to know. If you work for Razer and you'd love to hear more of my feedback, then please let me know that as well. I'd love to give it. But until then, until I find something else to ramble on about, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. The Razer Nabu. Great idea, great potential. The implementation just wasn't there. Thanks for watching.